Welcome to Different Look. Most people have an opinion about the death penalty, but few know exactly how it feels to wait to die for a crime you did not commit. Shujaa Graham was convicted of a robbery in California and sentenced to 3 years in prison. While serving his sentence, a riot broke out and a prison guard was killed. Graham and another inmate, Eugene Allen, were found guilty and sent to death row. Take a listen to some of the things Graham said he experienced while waiting to die.
I thought they were really tricking me when the jury said not guilty. And the guards even came to my cell, and when I went, said, "Graham, come on, you got to go out of here." And I started hollering at the guards. I said, "Hold it, wait a minute. I got to," and all I had to do is pick up my little property and get on out of there. They had to wait almost 45 minutes for me, and I just kept walking around that little cell. I didn't want to leave anything. And when I walked out, I still couldn't believe. Physically, I was free, but mentally, I was still confined.
Shujaa Graham joins us in studio today. Thank you so much. I see you still get emotional just listening to yourself talk about it.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. You're wearing the Witness to Innocence shirt, and we'll get into that organization a little bit later. But tell us what it really was like. You know, once you walked out, as we saw in the clip, you had trouble accepting you were found innocent and it was time to go. And once you walked out, what was that like?
It was an exciting moment for me, but at the same time, you couldn't actually believe it because I came into prison when I was 18 years old and I was in my 30s. And you know how you go to jail and your situation becomes so critical that you think it'll never be a day of light for you. And I had those moments. And after 11 years of being in prison, 3 of them on California's death row, and when the jury said not guilty, it was just really hard for me to believe that I wasn't just not guilty, but I could walk out the courtroom right then and there. Like I was saying earlier, it took me some time to process it, and I went back up to my cell and tried to compose myself to get ready to face my new world. And I walked out, and it was really hard, but I had a lot of support. A lot of prisoners that get out don't have the support that people's like me. How did you make it? You super strong. No. I had the support of wonderful peoples. And a lot of us, after staying in prison for 20 and 30 years, our parents is dead. We don't have no loved ones. And we just out there to fight for ourselves. And I was just one of the fortunate ones. And I just promised not to condemn, but I promised the prisoners, if I ever see the day of light, that I will dedicate my life to fighting for justice and fighting for their rights. Irregardless if they're guilty, they're still human beings, and they should be respected and treated like human beings. And that's what got me involved in the movement of social justice. When I went into prison, I was a different person. When I left, I was a totally different person.
How did it change you? I know when you went in, you were either going through a gang initiation or you were getting into gangs?
Well, I had been in gangs long before I had went to prison. When I went to prison, I was 18 years old, and I had been in and out of gangs all my life. And after I left the South, since I was 11 years old, and it was there after I had spent over 3 years of my life in prison before I was 18 years old, going in and out of prison. And it wasn't until I was 18 years old and I went off to prison for my last time at 18 for the $35 robbery, which I was guilty of. And a wonderful thing happened to me. I was chained up with a 45-year-old man, and his name was Yassin Muhammad. And from that day on, I never looked back. He gave me knowledge. He taught me how to read. He taught me the importance of history, why we should know our history as a person so we know how to deal with the president. And then I joined a movement, a political movement for social justice and human rights.
And this was in the mid to late 70s.
In
you
the
were
70s
actually
in prison.
San Quentin, which has a notorious reputation.
Right.
Joining the Black Panther Party. What was that like, and how did the riot break out?
Well, for me, it was like not just Mr. Muhammad that I was influenced by. At that time in the 60s and 70s, a lot of people that was a part of the Black Panther Party, the civil rights movement, was being arrested and incarcerated. And once they went to prison, like King said, no one wants to go to jail, but if you go to jail, hey, we're going to fill it up. And so what they did is when they was arrested and became a part of the prison institution, they continued the education of people, trying to transfer the criminal mentality, people like myself, into a revolutionary mentality. And that was the growth and birth of people like myself that was in prison. And joining that movement, I thought my life would probably be a little better because I wasn't in gangs anymore. But on November the 27th, 1973, I had been in prison for over 3 years. A human being was murdered. His name was Jerry Sanders. He was the prison guard in the institution. And they called it a riot or uprising or whatever. Said we tried to take over the prison institution of the part that I was located in, but it wasn't an uprising. If I was guilty of anything as adding to the atmosphere, I was going around just like I'm going around speaking now, telling people, trying to inform people to stand up and, for human rights and social justice. And that's what I was doing in prison. And on that day, like, I had became recognized as a leader in the movement and outspoken, not just necessarily a leader, but outspoken. And if I'd had a clue that some 30 years later, as I reflect, if I'd had a clue on November 27th what I was going to have to experience for the next 9 years, I'd have made them kill me that day. And I can honestly say, I thought once we surrendered, it would be all over when we go through the criminal justice system, everything will be worked out. But it took me 9 years. So here I am today, 30-some years later, still fighting. Not for Shujaa Graham. See, what have happened to me, it is done with. I don't want no revenge. I don't want no money. I just want justice. I want to make sure what happened to me never happened to anyone else. People say, I live in the state of Maryland, I should be happy. I am happy that we ended the death penalty and it makes Maryland a better state. But the same system still exists today that brought down the death penalty, the criminal justice system. It still exists. It's racist. It discriminates against the poor. And people like myself don't have a chance within that criminal justice system. So for me and my wife, our fight continue. It's just the tip of the iceberg for us to make Maryland a better place. And it will be wrong for me to say it's all over with now, Maryland is okay and I can go on with my life. No. That same system still exists. It just don't execute people.
Part of you having trouble leaving prison too has something to do with Eugene.
Yeah.
Because you left him.
Yes. When I came to the institution, I was a year or two older than Eugene Allen. And how we met, I had just come out of the lockup unit in another prison, and I was transferred to the Dual Vocation Institute for Younger Peoples from age of 18 to 21 and 22. And after I got out of the lockup unit, they placed me in the Dual Vocation Institute, and that's where I met Eugene Allen. And I can remember like yesterday when I used to see him just walking by himself all the time. And I asked the prisoner, I said, who is that little brother over there? He said, he's the one that was in juvenile at 17, and a riot again broke out, and a white prisoner was killed, and he was accused and convicted. And I said to myself, I want to be his friend to help him, and I thought I was going to be able to help him. At least I tried to help him, and next thing we know, both of us becoming really political and active. And we got involved in the movement, and as a consequence, he had another murder charge committed, accused of another murder, and he went to prison when he was 17 years old. And I'll be 62 years old on March the 30th, and I think I'm a year older than him. And he hasn't been out on the streets since 17.
Wow.
And I can say from my heart, I know for a fact that he haven't killed anyone. It was a word going around the prison. He's not the one that did it, it's this other guy that did it, but they convicted him and he just take the blame.
Wow.
And then I ended up being a part of his life and him being a part of my life, and we both went off to death row together. And it's hard. We didn't look alike other than the fact that we were black, African Americans. But we was together for so many years, and the guards sometimes called me Alan, sometimes called him Graham, and we would just respond because we were like brothers, and we became really close. And he probably the most strongest. He's about 5'7", come out of Merced, California, and he all the time that I was in prison, everybody thought I was the strongest one. I was this. That's the most powerful little brother that I ever seen. He could take blows, and he could be merciful. And he's the one that taught me a lot of my humanity. And we was young kids in prison, and we was teaching each other. But through our whole idea of the 9 years, I think he was the one that kept us together in terms of not breaking down. I had moments where I broke down and cursed him out because we was together all the time. But he was always cool and calm, and like he didn't even have an ego.
All right, and we're going to get back to talk more about Eugene, but there's someone who you met in prison who changed your life and helped you calm down a little bit. And when we come back, we'll talk about her. Stay with us.